So you wanna get right to the core. So you wanna know what it's all for. So you wanna come off knowing more. Well, you better get hip to Podcast by George. So you wanna get straight to the show. So you wanna know what you need to know. You wanna know what we're all here for. Well, you better get hip to Podcast by George. Podcast by George. Podcast by George. He knows what he's fighting for. It's Podcast by George. Podcast by George. Wanna know what we're fighting for?
Hello, hi, how are you? Welcome back into another podcast by George. Going to have some fun today on a very serious topic, and it's one of those stories that jumps out at me that I read, and it's kind of like, what the hell? That's why I do this podcast. There are some things that I have just got to get on, and this is one of them, and it was an article that appeared this past weekend in the Des Moines Register. It's entitled, ISU Responds to College GOP's Call to Arm Up. Now get this. A social media post Saturday by Iowa State University's college Republicans asking people to arm up, tweeted after Democrat Joe Biden was declared the winner of the presidential election, prompted an ISU statement that university policy prohibits student organizations from suggesting armed activity. Just as news broke about 11:30 a.m. Saturday that Biden was the president-elect, the Iowa State College Republicans' Twitter account tweeted, "Everyone, you must arm up. Expect these people to attempt to destroy your life. The elites want revenge on us." Some Iowa State students viewed the tweet as a threat of violence to come. And of course, that's where our guest comes into this. It's Jo Allen. Jo's a senior of journalism, and she's a journalism major in Ames at Iowa State University, and she's a Black Lives Matter organizer. And the thing about this that is striking to me is that they can call out a violent act like this after someone gets elected president of the United States. As an example, yeah, I voted for Biden. Now, don't get me wrong, he's not my favorite guy. But, after he won, I didn't call anybody to go grab a gun or go to whoop somebody or put it on Twitter. And Jo did the right thing. And I want to get into that now. And so, first of all, let's welcome Jo Allen to a podcast by George.
Hi, nice to see you, everyone. My name's Jo Allen. I use she, they pronouns. And yes, I am a journalism major here at Iowa State. I also have a minor in women and gender studies. And, like George said here, I'm very involved in activism, very involved in the community. So yeah, just both as a student and as a person of color and as a person that's in the LGBTQ community, after seeing that tweet and then just kind of scrolling through that account and seeing what else they had to say, there were multiple alarming things that sprung up to me. And just being a future journalist and just being a person that has those identities, I felt it was necessary to bring attention to it. I know I have a little bit of a platform. I have a little bit of, people that follow me here that listen and that understand these things. And so when I see stuff like that, stuff that I know that could potentially harm marginalized populations here at this university, I'm going to bring it to someone's attention, because that, like you said, what the hell was that? Like,
yeah.
Where did that come from? And then if you continue, there's just so much more to unpack there that is just wrong on so many levels and is just unethical and doesn't respect a lot of basically just diverse human beings, basically just having this one scope that we look through, and that's the only way that things can be. And that's an issue, especially when people in that organization are in the student government and are supposed to reflect the student body. You can't govern a student body when you won't respect certain sectors of students.
Well, and the bigger point that I wanted to get at initially here is you're doing the right thing, as I mentioned, because it wasn't a yell for censorship to shut them down, to go close off channels. I'm a big proponent of free speech and First Amendment rights and that type of thing, inciting harm to others, and that may not fall within that domain. But The solution is never censorship, folks. It's more speech. It's proper speech. You got to stand up. You got to be somebody. You got to say something. You just can't let this kind of stuff slide. And that's what I liked about you taking the initiative here, Joe, and speaking up. Now, there's one element of this I got to admit in the article that I didn't. It shows you the different in our generations. Joe's a senior up there at Iowa State University, going to graduate in what 2020.
Yeah. Spring of 2021. Yeah.
Yeah, 2021. Okay, because we'll come around to springtime. Okay, I was a senior in journalism in 1977. So, Joe, tell me about there's a Pepe the Frog or Pep the Frog. What is that? There's some element in this thing involving, what is that?
That's, the Pepe the Frog is, oh my goodness. It's a very much a part of meme culture, but a lot of the times, Pepe the Frog, it was kind of just like I think used in different ways, but it's kind of been used in a way now that like, oh, it's just like this symbol of a frog, but people take it and they'll make memes out of it in a way that is derogatory and racist and homophobic. And so that was one of the tweets that they had was with a Pepe the Frog and basically a bunch of like rainbow stuff and them discriminating. And so Pepe the Frog is kind of a meme thing. Honestly, I don't know too much about it because I don't get involved in this stuff too much. It can be used in ways that is harmful, but I mean that's you can use that with anything. You can take anything and use it in a way to cause harm or deflect back to other people. So
like I said, it was all news to me. And the approach that you took to this is great because you're a journalism major again. And what you said was, this can't stand because words matter. And if you're a journalism major, I mean, that's really all that we are. That's what we're about, folks. And words do matter.
Yeah. For me, I'm always very hyper aware of what I'm saying in the way that I want to say it in. And sometimes, it is hard not to let that anger just out. But a lot of the times I try to conduct it in a way that I can tell people that, hey, here is the facts. That is what I want you to see is the facts, because there is so much misinformation out here. And so I'm always someone that I want to make sure, like, if I'm tweeting something that is about an event and people can participate and come comment on a public forum, because students don't know about that. I don't even know about public forums unless people tell me. So you don't really get to hear the students' voices because we don't really, a lot of people don't pay attention and a lot of people don't really care, but like it matters. Our voices matter. And so what you're saying and what you're putting out there, whether you didn't mean for it to be violent when literally arming up means to grab a weapon and to like defend yourself. If you look it up online, took me about 5 seconds. That's what I got. So when you're telling people to arm up, especially after an election, especially after a social justice movement that is continuing to go on in this climate, you have to be very selective, and you should always be very selective of the words that you decide to put out there. And I know that what they said was not technically a direct threat because it didn't say it to arm up to a specific group or anything. But when you look at the rest of their tweets and you look at how they speak about other people, it makes other people feel like they have a target on their back. When they say, when we see an illegal on campus, we call ICE. How do you spot an illegal?
Yeah.
That's something, that's an assumption. That's putting a target on basically anyone that is dark enough to be assumed that they could be illegal. It's just the fact that this language has gone on for as long as it has without being addressed is alarming, because Ames BLM gets watched like a hawk, and we are not even affiliated with Iowa State. And you have these groups that literally are tied to your name that are making these statements, and you are allowing it because freedom of speech. How far does freedom of speech go when it inflicts fear upon others, when it puts a target on other people's back, when it doesn't show common decency and respect to gender diverse human beings? That's alarming, because there are people here that are not, the hetero norm, so you have to be able to be accepting of everyone. You can't just be exclusive to this
Right.
certain sector of people. You have to represent everyone.
Right. Well, and that's the example that I was talking about with using additional speech, more speech, doing what you did. Censorship has to be used very carefully, and it has to be used in the instance where you're calling to arms, as an example, or calling for violence on someone else. And there are rules, there are laws on the books to handle that type of thing. I mean, illegal activity, illegal speech is illegal speech. And that it is crossing the boundaries in my mind, and it's very close to that. Joe, I kind of wanted you to explain for us again. This is an incident at Iowa State University, but the circumstances that we're talking about are not exclusive to Iowa State. Certainly, this is really surprising to me. I'm as much in the dark on this as I am with Pepe the Frog, because when I was in college in the 70s, I mean, it was just post Vietnam. And there wasn't anybody calling anybody to arm up or harm anybody or anything like that back then. That was just not a part of college culture. But, right after I graduated, and, a few years along came Ronald Reagan, then came, Rush Limbaugh, that gave a voice to some of these people. And the internet gave them a platform, and Fox News has given them community now. And they're among us, and they're on our college campuses. How prevalent is this kind of hate group activity on college campuses today? It really surprises me.
Yeah, when I really think about it, I've spent time at two universities. Actually, I was originally at the University of Northern Iowa. I got diagnosed with cancer my first year, so dropped out, did my chemo, went back, did 2 years there, and transferred over here because I just felt like there was more opportunity, more, more creative people that I could also connect with and learn from here. And actually, honestly, at both my times at both university, there has been, I would say at UNI, I saw more racism firsthand, like personal experiences, or like at least seeing my other friends experience racism, like out in public in Cedar Falls. So I would say I experienced more of that there, whereas here it's more of just, every year there's something. That's the thing. And I don't know if there was ever anything like that before, but every year there's some kid, there's some group, there's somebody that vandalizes and put this, or says this, or encourages people to do this, or people drawing, Nazi signs with chalk.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, it happens, and it happens every year, and it kind of just gets swept under the rug every year too. Like, we never really hear any discipline. We don't see any action ever being taken. We don't ever feel safer. I just feel like they kind of give out the same bland response saying, basically, we'll take care of this, but this doesn't reflect Iowa State, is what all I hear from their message, when I should be hearing, what do you need? How can we help you guys? Like, how do the parents feel about this? Because you know what, after I made those tweets, sharing and backing up, because I am a believer, if you're going to say something, you need to back it up. After sharing those tweets, after sharing a 2-minute long video of just tweets I found in the last 3 months of them saying that, talked about illegals, talked about LGBTQ people and non-binary people being mentally ill, saying they need to go to asylums, telling people to grab a rifle. There's multiple problematic things here. And so
well, for parents, it's really important, and I wanted to get to that because we're different generations here. Do these parents know that you're maybe financing kids to go to college, that are leaders of tomorrow, and they're doing this? They're telling people to arm up. They're attacking groups. This is what they're doing. This is their extracurricular activities. This is what they're focusing on. I don't know if people's aware of that or not. I looked at that article, and that's one of the reasons that I went, what the hell? Well, Joe, I try to keep my podcast at about 20, 25 minutes. That's about, and when we get into something like this, it seems like it always runs long, and you're a great public speaker. So it was great to hear from you on this. I want to give you a last word, though, just in summation here. it sounds like nothing definitive is going to come of this, but again, I think you're doing the right thing because you're taking a platform, you're countering bad speech with good speech. To me, that's the solution to the problem, and the education that everybody needs to get on these matters so that something can be done and so that we can try to stem the tide of this, I guess.
Yeah, and I would say honestly, what has happened, and I believe, accepting more signatures as possible, but the Greenlee School of Journalism department, they created a letter asking Iowa State to hold these people accountable, to take action, because this goes against the student conduct policy like 5.2, 5.7, 5.9, like you can look it up. It is, I posted a link to it with, people can add if they're a student, if they're alumni, whatever they are. And honestly, I looked at it this morning and there's even more names. And it is interesting to see how many people are concerned about this, because this isn't just staff and students. These are people that are graduated. These are concerned parents. These are concerned citizens leaving a comment, leaving their name and leaving the title saying concerned citizen, saying, I go to the University of Iowa and I'm concerned. So this is not just the Ames population. This is people everywhere that are concerned about this language that is going on. And honestly, I was surprised to even see how many alumni and how many people even reacted to my tweet with I don't want to put my money here, or why would I want to go to school here? So this is a much bigger issue than I think Iowa State sees. And I think accountability is the biggest thing here, and just being very careful of your language. You can't just be posting stuff like that and just not be held accountable for your actions. It's just, if Ames BLM or if a different group said something like that, we would be shut down. And we're not even with Iowa State. So it's alarming what is being allowed in comparison also to other groups. And just if you are able to, and if you are concerned, whether you are a student, staff, an Ames citizen, there is a link to the letter. You can read through it, seeing what the Greenlee School of Department has said in response to this. They brought up, the actual policies that are being broken here as well to further support it. And you can sign your name if you are in support of the administration, taking a deeper look at this and just really holding people accountable. So I can share that with you if you'd like. And I have it on my social media. If you look me up, just look up the name Joe Allen, and it should be up on my Twitter, and I might have put it up on Facebook, not sure. But I'm just trying to get it out there because this is concerning to hear.
We'll do it. Consider it done. Words matter. That's great. Atta Joe, folks. That's Joe Allen, a senior journalism major at Iowa State University. And Joe's standing up and being somebody on a very important issue here. You just can't let these things go. They've got to be addressed. And she's grabbing the mic, taking the podium, and doing what needs to be done in this very strange time that we're living. Joe, thanks for coming on Podcast by George.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
And folks, if you like Podcast by George, I always encourage everyone at the end of the show to go to YouTube and subscribe. Ring the notification bell. Please subscribe on iTunes. You can listen to the audio-only versions there. We're on Facebook. A lot of folks watch the videos on Facebook. We're on Spotify, the iHeartRadio app, and really just about any place podcasts are seen or heard. But that's going to do it for today. That's going to wrap it up. That's another Podcast by George.